Hi, we're not on the range today. We're at one of our training facilities, so please bear with all kinds of noise you hear in the background. Today we're talking about 357 SIG ammunition. There's many different varieties. I have just a few with me today, including Underwood Superior High Performance 125 grain jacketed hollow point, Sig Sauer Elite Performance 125 grain jacketed hollow point, Spear Gold Dot Duty ammunition and Spear Gold Dot Personal Protection ammunition, both with 125 grain gold dot hollow point. The question is asked, is there really a difference between the two? Let me read part of the label. Trust, it's something that's earned. Gold Dot high-performance handgun ammunition has earned the trust of thousands of law enforcement officers across America and around the world. Trust, it's something that's earned. Gold Dot high-performance handgun ammunition has earned the trust of thousands of law enforcement officers across America and around the world. You get the point. Is there really any difference between the two? We'll see if we can find out. And we'll see how all of these ammunitions compare to each other, and we'll see to what degree, if any, they're better than your plain old Remington green and white box 125 grain jacketed hollow point. And we'll start with some tedious chronograph testing. I have the chronograph set up at 7 yards, and the pistol I'm using today is a Glock Model 31. And the ammunition I'm going to start with is Remington green and white box 125 grain jacketed hollow point. You'll notice that I'm wearing earphones. This is an earplug case. I wear earplugs with every shot I take. But when shooting really high pressure rounds like 357 SIG, especially when I'm going to shoot quite a few of them, I will sometimes use my earplugs and earphones. Also, the portion of the chronograph testing is tedious. I know that because many people have informed me of that. I leave it in because many people have asked me to leave it in. But if you find it tedious, I invite you to fast forward to the part where you see me standing next to the chart. Okay, for the rest of us, let's shoot the chronograph. $13.89. $13.89. $13.67. $13.85. $13.71 and $13.86. Now let's try a different type of ammo. And now our Sig Sauer Elite Performance 125 grain jacketed hollow point. $14.04. $13.85. $13.93. $13.66. And $13.86. Let's try a different type of ammo. And now our Underwood Superior High Performance 125 grain jacketed hollow point. $15.35. $15.37. $15.12. $15.34. And $15.21. Let's try another type of ammo. And now our Spear Gold Dot Duty ammunition with 125 grain gold dot hollow point. $1400. $14.05. $13.37. $13.86. $14.06. And $13.73. Now, when I said $13.87, there was a malfunction in the chronograph, so we're going to throw that one out and terms of determining our mean. But now let's try another type of ammo. And now our Spear Gold Dot personal protection ammunition with 125 grain Gold Dot hollow point. $14.31. $14.12. $14.05. $14.04. And $14.07. Now let's go crunch the numbers. Well, I crunched the numbers, and here they are, and of course it comes with a caveat that chronographs don't always agree with each other, and certain environmental factors like elevation and ambient temperature can affect chronograph results. We see that our Underwood Superior High Performance ammunition with a velocity of 1527 is significantly more than the rest, but as far as the rest go, from our Remington, the slowest at 1379, to our Spear Gold Dot personal protection, the highest at 1411, is a variation of only 32 feet per second. That's in some cases within the variation of one round to the next. And when you're talking about velocities over 1,300 feet per second, 32 feet per second isn't much of a difference. With our two Spear Gold Dot ammunitions, the duty ammunition and the personal protection, here we see a difference of only 17 feet per second. Again, that's not really a difference. But with our Underwood Superior High Performance ammunition with a velocity of 1527, that's 116 feet per second more than its closest competitor. That is a significant difference. So it would appear that our Underwood does have superior high performance, at least in terms of velocity. But how will this translate into effectiveness on a target? Let's see if we can put that to the test. To evaluate penetration and hollow point expansion, we use a medium called the meat target. For those who haven't seen it before, it's leather jacket skin followed by pork steak pectoral, pork ribs, a bag of oranges to simulate lung tissue, more pork ribs on the back, 4 layers of t-shirt on the front, 4 layers on the back, and the whole thing followed by the new and improved high-tech fleece bullet stop. And I'll shoot from 7 yards with the SIG Model 31, which I have loaded with Remington green and white box 357 SIG 125 grain jacketed hollow point. We see a lot of damage to our pork chop pectoral, a lot of damage to the ribs on the front of the target, pulverized our orange lung tissue. The ribs on the back of the target have extensive damage, and where the projectiles hit the ribs, shattered them. A couple of the projectiles were stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target, but a couple of them made it through several layers into the fleece, one making it through to about the 20th layer of fleece. Now let's take a close-up look at the projectiles. And we see very good expansion, and a couple of the rounds lost their jacket. Now we have a new meat target set up, and I have the Glock 31 loaded with Underwood Superior High Performance ammunition, 125 grain jacketed hollow point. Let's see how much more performance we really get. Well, there's the ribs on the front of the target, extensive damage. Just pureed our orange lung tissue. However, the ribs on the back of the target have comparatively little damage. One of the projectiles was stopped by the ribs on the back of the target. The others were stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target, and none of them penetrated the fleece bullet stop at all. So although we do see a lot more damage to the intended target, it does come at the cost of penetration. Now let's take a close-up look at these projectiles. And there's our projectiles, and you can see that the expansion is extensive. Now we've changed locations and we are on the range. We have a new meat target set up, and I have my Glock Model 31 loaded with our Spear Gold Dot ammunition. Let's shoot this from 7 yards and see what kind of results we get. So with our Spear Gold Dot ammunition, we see a lot of damage to the ribs on the front of the target. A lot of damage to our orange lung tissue. The ribs on the back of the target, all 4 projectiles hit, all 4 went completely through. Where they hit a rib, broke it, but you see very little damage here. Most of the energy was already expended. And all 4 projectiles were stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target. Now let's take a close-up look at the projectiles. And here's our projectiles, and you can see that the expansion is excellent and very uniform. I have 3 shoot-and-see targets set up, and I'll shoot from 7 yards with my Glock Model 31, and we'll see how our Speer Gold Dot, Underwood, and Remington ammunitions compare for group size and group location. Well, here's our results, and remember, we're only shooting from 7 yards, so we would expect our groups to be fairly good. And with the Speer Gold Dot, not bad. The Remington group is a little bit to the left, and that's okay because although the sights on the Glock Model 31 are not adjustable for elevation, they are adjustable for windage. You could just move the sight over a little bit if that's the ammunition you're going to go with. With our Underwood Superior High Performance ammunition, we see a group that is not nearly as good as the other two. Some people would argue that it's good enough, but still not as good as the other two. Why is that? There could be several factors at work here, but one of those could be that when you propel a projectile at a velocity significantly higher than what would be considered typical, you can sometimes lose accuracy. And that brings me to a type of ammunition many people have asked about, the Underwood Superior High Performance 357 SIG Extreme Defender ammunition, with a 65 grain projectile and an advertised velocity printed on the box of 2,100 feet per second. What kind of accuracy will we get with this ammunition? Well, I'll put up another shoot-and-see target, and we'll shoot and see. Well, not a bad group. We've got one flyer, that's just me, but we see a definite shift in our point of impact. Now, with the Remington ammunition being off a little bit to the left, I said that that was okay because the sights are adjustable for windage. But the sights on the Glock Model 31 are not adjustable for elevation, and that's a trait that's very common among handguns that are designed for personal protection, concealed carry, or law enforcement. Now, this might seem like it's not very far off, but remember, I'm only shooting 7 yards. If I were shooting 14 yards, it would be off by twice that amount. And for me, that would preclude this ammunition from consideration. We also see that the bullet holes look like they're shaped differently than with our other ammunitions. Why? Let me show you a close-up of what these projectiles look like. The projectile of the Extreme Defender ammunition is shaped like a Phillips head screwdriver with the tip cut off. The velocity stamped on the box is 2,100 feet per second. I have my chronograph set up at 7 yards. Let's see what kind of numbers I get. (2012). 2012. 2018. 2000. 2028. 2013. 2007. Let's go crunch the numbers. The first 2 shots I fired read the same velocity. That's indicative that the chronograph may have malfunctioned, so I threw out one of those in computing the mean. And the mean velocity I got was 2,013 feet per second. That's very high velocity. And with the 65 grain projectile, I'm feeling a little bit less recoil than with the 125 grain projectiles. But what kind of performance will we really get out of our 65 grain Phillips screwdriver head looking projectile at 2,013 feet per second? Let's go back to the meat target and see what we can learn about that. Well, here's the ribs on the front of the target, and you can see that the Extreme Defender didn't cause as much damage as some of the hollow points did, but still considerable damage. There's extensive damage done to our orange lung tissue. As far as the ribs on the back of the target is where the hollow points just put holes through there, the Extreme Defender ammunition is still doing quite a bit of damage. But the penetration was really inconsistent. One of the projectiles was stopped by the ribs on the back of the target, one was stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target, one made it through to the 10th layer of fleece, one made it to the 20th layer of fleece. But what's really interesting is the condition these projectiles are in now. Let's take a close-up look. And we see that our Extreme Defender projectiles are not deformed in the least. There's 4 takeaways I want to point out. We have a presentation on 357 SIG versus 357 Magnum, and you can watch that to see how the two compare to each other. But 357 SIG is a powerful round, and for personal protection home defense purposes, it will probably be plenty. Secondly, I can't find any difference between Spear Gold Dot duty ammunition and Spear Gold Dot personal protection ammunition. Third, you have to select an ammo that is going to hit consistently with where your partially adjustable or non-adjustable sights are aligned. And 4, the Underwood Extreme Defender ammunition might have more penetration than conventional 125 grain hollow points, and it might be a good choice if you live in a jurisdiction where expanding projectiles are prohibited. Check your local laws. So as always, don't try this at home on what you call a professional, and thanks for watching the 357 SIG ammunition selection video.